Hi, ladies and gentlemen. It's Dr. Julio Novoa. I want to take a few minutes so that we can go ahead and add people to our list or invites. So we'll start in a few minutes, which is just a little early right now, but giving everybody time to sign on. While we are taking the time for inviting people to sign on, if you could do me a favor and take some paper and a pen or something to write with, or to take notes, so that you can get some general information about the topics that we're going to talk about today. Also, if you have any friends, that please share the link or share the conversation, because we're not just talking about implants today. We're going to be talking about medicine. We're going to be talking about medical management related to surgeries and general information that I think a lot of patients don't know about related to what's going on with their care and how limited it is sometimes to actually get information or the right information. So here we go. I'm going to be sharing to eSure Problems Forum. And for whatever reason, my computer is really slow today. So anyway, those patients that follow along in eSure Problems, or that, let's see, the breast implant illness, I couldn't get a link into their group, but I think it's important for them to link in if they can. Hi, Cecilia. And also for the post-tubal ligation forum, the mesh forums, and general implants is what we're talking about. So here we go. So if everyone that is actually part of the eSure group would do me a favor and link to your subgroups for those in Texas, New Mexico, even for England, for example, New Zealand. I know there's a group in Italy and France. It's really important that you all link in or you share the information because it's all applicable. Let's see, post-tubal ligation. I think that there's like 3 or 4 groups for the mesh group. So let's see if I can just swing into them. And let's see. There's an excellent group that has some information related to the breast implants, the anaplastic large cell lymphoma groups. They have some excellent discussions in that group. I was following along and was impressed with the medical knowledge that they're sharing in that group. I apologize if I'm taking just a few more minutes just to try to share the link to the groups. Okay, it's a little bit after 12. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I wanted to talk about a website called TrackMy Solutions, which I was requested to review. And first of all, I don't have any financial association with TrackMy Solutions, but I felt that the product that they were providing was an excellent product as far as giving information and helping patients to maintain some type of link with the implants, and not only implants because they also follow medical recalls and stuff like that. But it was really important to have an option available to patients that is currently not available. What I wanted to stress, first of all, is that despite the fact that FDA has approved a particular product, the FDA is unable to provide direct information to patients related to a product or an implant that's placed in that particular patient. So if you're under the impression that the FDA is going to notify you directly when there's an implant recall, that's not going to happen. If you believe that that's also going to happen from your doctor, that's not going to happen in many cases, in the majority of cases, or whether or not the surgical center or hospital is going to notify you, that's also not going to necessarily happen. And the reason for that is that there's no centralized center where you can get information as to your implants, implant recall, problems with your implants. It just doesn't exist. Now, the MAUD data, for example, that the FDA has can be used to provide adverse effects for an implant, but it doesn't provide any direct information to a patient. Say, hey, listen, we know that you have this particular implant, and we're just notifying you because we want you to go ahead and contact your doctor. So that's point number one. There is no centralized implant notification system that exists right now. And TrackMy Solutions is trying to make a change with that, trying to provide a service. And the great thing about the service is that it doesn't cost the patient anything. Where they're going to be focusing in on providing services free to the patient, they're going to be focusing in on the doctors and also the surgical centers, the hospitals that can afford to maintain this type of data bank or service, and then be able to provide those services to the patients. So that's point number one. I don't have any financial association with TrackMy Solutions. It's relatively easy to go to their website, and I'd like to encourage everyone to do that. It's trackmysolutions.us. And so go ahead and take the time, Google that if you need to. But that's the quickest way to get a hold of them. Now, why is this particular type of service so important? And this is where I wanted to go back and take a few minutes to address the particular issues that are associated with the problems with implants in the United States. We all know, and especially Issue Problems Forum, and if you haven't had the opportunity, I digress for a moment. If you haven't had the opportunity to watch the Netflix documentary called The Bleeding Edge, I strongly recommend you and your family members to watch this together, to share this particular link to Netflix and watch this documentary. It's well worth the hour and 15 minutes or an hour that it's on. And the reason that it's well worth it is because it's shocking to get an idea of how bad the system really is, how easy it is to get a flawed implant on the market, and how hard it is to get it off the market once it's on. This includes the eSure device, the Felshi clips, the Hulka clips, the Celastic bands, the vaginal meshes, the urethral meshes, the hernia meshes, of course the breast implants, both saline and silicone, the hip implants, and even dental implants. So if you've got friends that have had some issues with dental problems, it's strongly recommended you also talk to them about what could be causing their problems is actually the implants, their dental implants that are causing these systemic problems that we'll be talking about, which is called foreign body reactions and the autoimmune inflammatory syndrome induced by adjuvants or ASIA. Now, so if you've got a friend or family member that has dental implants, if you've got a friend or family member that's got any type of implant, breast implants, even the hearing aids that are placed, pacemakers, for example, hip implants, this is the problems that we're talking about. This is what we're saying. Now, let's talk about what would happen if you had an implant. Currently, what would happen if you have an implant and there's a problem with it? And I'd like to go for a few minutes and let's talk about silicone implants, because I know I talk a lot about eSure devices, but eSure doesn't have anything related to a central banking system or device management system. And so I wanted to pick one that does actually have a tracking system right now and address how bad the tracking system actually is and why a company such as TrackMy Solutions would be an option for you as a patient to look at that. So let's take a moment, and I'm going to take this, and I've downloaded the directions for use for the Natrial silicone breast implants, and this would be very important for any woman that has breast implants in the United States, because we're talking about more than 100,000 women per year, more than 1 million women have breast implants currently. We're talking about the recall related to the textured implants from Allergan, except for the risk factors of the textured implants of Allergan, the general issues related to implants for both in the Allergan company and the Mentor company are applicable. What I mean by that is that whatever you've heard about the safety related to breast implants, yes, breast implants are generally considered to be safe, but they are, however, still have some significant problems with them that should be monitored much more closely than is actually occurring. And the general information that is being given to patients is actually false information or misinformation. And this is what's so important about getting the right information. So what I did was I downloaded the directions for use, and you can do this. You can download the directions for use on the website right now from Allergan, and what you can do is Google Allergan silicone implants DFU, which is directions for use. And give me a moment. I just want to check something on this video because it's a little bit bright. Okay. Now, why is this important? Well, what we're talking about here is the fact that most of the information that you've been given related to breast implants is probably something you don't understand properly, or you weren't given the proper information. So let's address point number one. All breast implants are associated with a foreign body reaction. That means that your body forms a capsule around the implant to protect itself or to wall off the implant. Every body has a foreign body reaction. The severity of the foreign body reaction is what's keenly important here. Some patients end up developing what's called a capsular contracture, which is an exaggeration of the foreign body reaction. And this exaggeration can lead to physical deformity and also the requirement that the implant be removed. Now, what ends up happening there is that how often does this happen? Well, it is estimated that the foreign body reaction for breast implants occurs between 7 and up to 35% of patients suffer from the foreign body reaction. And associated with the foreign body reaction is the breast illness condition, or the Asia condition associated with breast implant illness. This is an exaggeration of a foreign body reaction related to breast implants. And so although it's not 35%, it's significant enough to affect women in everyday life. And so that's keenly important here. Everyone suffers a foreign body reaction. The severity is dependent on that individual person rather than the implant itself. So what you have to understand that any woman that has a breast implant has approximately a 35% chance of having complication related to it. And the longer you have the breast implant in, the more time is available to have a reaction to the implant. This is also applicable to Essure, to the meshes, to the hip implants, to the Hulka clips, to the Felshi clips. All of these are applicable. So if you've got an implant in your body, the longer you have the implant in your body, the more likely it is that you'll suffer from a foreign body reaction. So why is this important related to TrackMy Solutions, or TrackMy Solutions? because your doctor doesn't have to keep your medical records for any longer than 7 years. So after 7 years, your doctor can destroy your medical records. Or a hospital is not required to keep your medical records for longer than 11 years. So if you happen to hit the anniversary date of 7 years and you had breast implants in place, you may not ever get a phone call from your doctor because your doctor already destroyed your medical records. So if there's a recall on your particular implant, you may never get a phone call. Or if you start showing signs and symptoms of a foreign body reaction, you may never get a phone call or even know where your doctor went because the doctor may have left town or retired, and all your medical records are gone. So unless you keep your ID card, your identifier card related to your implant, which many patients don't, you don't have anything to fall back on related to your implant. Now, mind you, for silicone implants, you're required there's a requirement to notify the manufacturer about that implant with the identifier, but it's possible that it's not, because let's continue with the conversation. Many times doctors will do what they need to do or what they want to do in order to sell a product and really downplay the risks related to it, because I already stressed one of the risks. You have a 35% chance of having a complication with a breast implant. You have a 35% chance of having a complication with eShore device, for example. You have greater than a 50% chance of having a complication with a vaginal or urethral mesh. So all of these complications were probably not stressed to you, and so you got the implant, and now you're suffering from all those particular issues, those problems from the implant, and may not even know that for example, the vaginal meshes or the urethral meshes, vaginal meshes, have been recalled. They're no longer sold, or eShore is no longer sold, or that the Allergan textured implants have been taken off the market because of the potential risk of lymphoma cancer related to that product. Were you aware of this? I'm not sure if you were. But TrackMy Solutions, for example, once you sign up with them for free, they will track your implant by its identifier. Now, it's going to take some time to go over all of that. The best thing to do is to go online, Google it, trackmysolutions.us, or Google it under just TrackMy Solutions, and find that website, sign up for the service, and what's also very, very important, which I stress to everyone, please get a copy of your medical records, because as I said before, after 7 years, your medical records are going to be destroyed or gotten rid of. After 11 years, some hospitals are not required or are not keeping them on a microfilm, and so if your medical records are gone, they're gone forever. So that's very important to get a copy of your medical records and also your identifier for your implants. Sign up for this particular service, and go from there as far as having some type of follow-up related to your implants. Now, I downloaded this directions for use. Now, directions for use means that this is information that's provided to your provider, to your surgeon, that surgeon is supposed to know about and supposed to stress to you related to implants. So I'm specifically talking about the Allergan series silicone filled implants today, and I highlighted some key points. And I'm sorry if I'm going back and forth on looking down, but I'm just going over the pages so that we can go over it together. And I strongly encourage you to Google the Allergan. If you have silicone implants, to Google the Allergan directions for use for silicone implants, because I'm going to be talking about some issues that I particularly highlighted on it. Number one, breast implants are recommended by the manufacturer to be used for reconstructive surgery and for women that have suffered from breast cancer as an alternative to the cosmetic alternative to following the removal of their breast or the removal of their nipple. The problem is that breast implant placement after breast surgery, and specifically after cancer irradiation, has a significantly high risk of complications. Here is a woman, and the ethics behind it is mind-boggling to me. Here is a woman who has just lost her breast, and yet she's being told by her surgeon that it's okay to go ahead and put a foreign body inside of her breast to replace her breast without necessarily stressing the fact that she's got a 35% chance that she's going to have another complication by placing that implant in there. Mind-boggling to me that many women that have had breast surgery that have already suffered so much are still suffering. So if you have a family member, if you have someone that you know that's had breast cancer and has breast implants, please encourage them to sign up for this tracking system, because I'm not really sure whether or not they're getting the right information or all the information that they need to. The next point, because I keep hearing this from the breast implant illness group, that they were not told about why it's not a good idea to have breast implants placed when you have an autoimmune disease already. Now, yes, 20 years ago, after the moratorium was lifted related to breast implants, they stated that there was no association between breast implants causing autoimmune diseases. But what they weren't informed, and what people still aren't informed about, are the fact that there is no specific study to rule out that the patients that have implants placed when they have autoimmune diseases are not safe. Okay, specifically on page 5, and I highlighted it. Page 5 of the directions for use states that safety and effectiveness have not been established in patients with the following: autoimmune diseases such as lupus and scleroderma, a compromised immune system such as those receiving immunosuppressive therapy, planned chemotherapy, planned radiation therapy. These fall into the groups of women that suffer from hypothyroidism, from Sjogren's syndrome, from Raynaud's syndrome, from lupus, of course, scleroderma, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. These women should really, really think about it carefully before putting implants in them, because these could possibly lead to the breast implant illness, or for the most obvious one is going to be capsular contracture with a risk of 35%. Also, conditions and medications that interfere with wound healing and blood clotting. So if you suffer from a bleeding disorder, you should carefully consider having breast implants placed. Clinical diagnosis of depression, obviously that's not a specific one, but there is the breast implant illness disease condition is associated with depression, is associated with cognitive changes, as is Essure, for example. And this is very important to understand that all of these are related, or could be related, or increases your risk of it. So for those ladies that have autoimmune diseases, for those ladies that already have an implant in place, such as Essure, I don't ever recommend that they get another implant placed, such as breast implants. So if you have Essure, I don't recommend that you get breast implants. If you have Essure, I don't recommend that you get an IUD placed, because the foreign body reaction can be triggered by almost any other foreign body, no matter how subtle it is. Are you getting this information from your surgeon? This is the information that's provided to your surgeon. This is the information that should be stressed to you. Surgical mesh, for example, for breast implants, in reconstructive surgery, and to lift breast and to reinforce a pocket, there are doctors that are using surgical meshes. This has not been confirmed to be safe and effective, and does increase your risk of further foreign body reactions. So these are the things that we're talking about just in one informed consent, direction for use. Key, very important. The next comment, very important to any woman that has silicone breast implants. All ladies, whether or not it be smooth or textured, all ladies that have silicone implants, were you advised that the recommendation is for you to have an MRI done 3 years after the placement of your implant, 3 years after the placement of your implant, and then every 2 years after that, regardless of whether or not you've had a mammogram, regardless of whether or not you have any symptoms of a problem. This is the selling point or the not telling patients about their implants, because an MRI runs anywhere between $1,000 and $3,000, and if you have to have it done 3 times or 4 times in the period of time that the manufacturer will cover your implant, that could end up costing 2 times to 3 times more than your original breast surgery cost. But this is something that is not being stressed to patients. Patients are not being told that they're supposed to get an MRI done for silicone implants 3 years after their implants have been placed and every 2 years after that, because silicone implants can silently rupture. Now, why isn't this the same thing offered for saline implants? Because if you have a leaking saline implant or you have a ruptured saline implant, you're going to wake up with one breast bigger than the other. That's an obvious. If your implant for saline ruptures, you're going to know that there's something that went on, or it's not going to be silent. Okay, but for silicone implants, it is. And why is this so significant? Why is this so significant? I'm going to just move on to the next page. Because the studies that were done originally for with the silicone implants showed that the rupture rate of a silicone implant is approximately 10% in primary augmentation. So if you've got silicone implants in place, you have a 9 to 10% chance that your implant will rupture over a 10-year period of time. And it may be, and up to 3 times higher chance that you won't even know that it ruptured. For reconstructive surgery, for breast surgery, for following breast cancer or trauma, the probability that you're going to have a rupture is close to 30%, whether or not it's obvious or silent. And yet, so this is the reason why MRIs are recommended. Were you aware of that? Were you told by your doctor that you have a 30% chance, a 10% chance if it's never been operated on, over a 10-year period of time, or a 30% chance that you're going to have a rupture of your implant silently, silicone implant? And the reason why you have, it is recommended you get an MRI done every 2 to 3 years after you have an implant placed. Again, this is not stuff that I'm just pulling out of the air. Do me the favor and download Allergon silicone breast implants, DFU. Google it, and you will see what I'm talking about. Now, have you been told by your doctor that the implant that you have placed is a permanent implant? You don't have to get it replaced. The 10 years, you don't have to get them replaced after 10 years. It's true that you don't absolutely have to get them replaced at 10 years. But if you know that every year the risk of a rupture increases, and then after 10 years there's no more warranty, and you're not getting your MRIs done, and were you told that this is not indefinite, or were you told that that you didn't have to replace your implants? Well, you do. You do, simply because of the potential risk. 1 out of 10 chance, or 1 out of 3 chance, depending on your particular group and your particular risk. Were you told this by your surgeon? Many patients were not. Page 15 of the DFUs talks about connective tissue disorder, which includes lupus, scleroderma, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia. I think it should also include hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism, as well as Sjogren's syndrome, Raynaud's syndrome. Basically, it says that you have to be careful if you have implants and you have these conditions. Why? Because of the foreign body reaction. Why? Because for all of those women that are suffering from breast implant illness, this is what's going on. This is what the problem is. Neurological diseases, such as which produce cognitive changes, part of the breast implant. It's all here. It's all here. It's always been here. The problem is that doctors have not been stressing this information to their patients. So I think I've stressed the point enough, and I think that you can take the time. And so what does this have to do with all of the implants in general, because it's applicable to every single implant. Ladies, if you've got the E-Shore, if you had your tubes tied and you've got permanent suture, or you've got the Felshi clips, or you've got the Holka clips, you've got the Celastic bands, if you have an IUD in place, if you've got a hip replacement, if you've got a pacemaker, of course, I just talked about the silicone implants. If you got meshes, hernia meshes, vaginal meshes, urethral meshes. These are foreign bodies. These are implants. These need to be tracked. Your doctors and your hospitals are not tracking them and are not obligated to track them. And after 7 years, your medical records can be destroyed. So what is the solution, or what is a potential solution and something that can help you? My recommendation is for you to go online and go and check this out at trackmysolutions.us. It's relatively easy to go through the steps. It is important, however, that you have your tracking identification. If you don't have it, like I said, get your medical records and keep them forever. If not, the website can help you to try to get the information if you don't actually have your implant identifier. I hope that I have, and the reason that I'm telling you all of this is because if your doctor did not tell you about the risks associated with your implant, whether or not it be E-Shore or Felshi clips or vaginal meshes, hernia meshes, silicone implants, saline implants, if your doctor didn't tell you about those potential risks, I sincerely doubt that they're going to tell you or call you and tell you about an implant complication or an implant recall. This, unfortunately, is left up to you, the patient, for right now, because it's not a requirement by law. TrackMy Solutions is an option available to you, as well as for TrackMy medications, which is off the same site. And I strongly recommend that you encourage this to all of your friends, family members, to also be using this service for anything that they have which is medically associated with the service that they can provide. Now, here's where it's very important. The only way that this is going to become something that is a standard of care is for a patient to insist that this become a standard of care. And therefore, I recommend that you insist on your doctors that are putting implants in to get this type of service, that the hospitals that you go to, where all of those awards, when they're talking about, we've got 4 stars, we've got 5 stars, we're the best in the area. First question when you walk in or when you call them up, go, do you have TrackMy Solutions or a service similar to that? Because I'm not going to go into your hospital unless I know that you guys are taking care of what I need to be taken care of, especially if you've given me a medication or you put an implant in me. I want to know that I have an independent group that's going to be following me and going to be taking care of my needs and telling me what's going on with my devices. Because FDA has failed you in many cases. Your doctors have failed you. The hospitals are not required, they're not the ones that are calling you up to tell you about an implant recall. And this service is free. This service does not cost you anything. And the more people that sign up, the better chance that it becomes a standard of care, the more refined it becomes. And for all of those people that are going to be watching in Europe and other parts of the world, this type of service is being developed so that it can become international. Let's go ahead and see what we can do now to make it a part of standard of care. And again, the only way that it can become standard of care is for you and every single one of your family members to sign up for this free service. And every time you go to your doctor, to ask your doctor, and it doesn't have to be you, it can be your mother, it can be your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, when they go to their doctors, to ask them, do you have TrackMy Solutions or something similar to it as a part of standard of care? And if not, find another doctor or find someone that feels that that this is as important, and I think that you feel that how important it is. So that was my my commentary for today. I just wanted to talk about TrackMy Solutions. I'm sorry I can't dedicate more time to the particular subject, but I just want to get the ball rolling. Feel free to comment and continue to comment. I will take those questions directly and try to get back to you, or comment on it on Facebook. And hopefully we can get the ball rolling here. Again, if you have the time, watch the Netflix documentary, The Bleeding Edge. Please go to TrackMy Solutions for more information. And please, if you have an implant, it's pretty simple. Google it, which is called directions for use, because directions for use is something that is directed towards your doctor, for your doctor. But it's easy enough to read. There's not a lot of medical terminology. The average person can get this information, and it's important for you to have, and important for you to be part of the change that's required. Be proactive in changing the standard of care, because frankly, we as doctors are going to continue to drag our feet and could continue to not do what's in your best interest simply because nobody's behind us, kicking us in our butt, making us do it. So I hope that this has been. Please share with family and friends that have any type of implants, that take any type of medicine, and start asking your doctors and your hospitals, do you have this type of service? And hopefully we can change things. You can change things. You can make the difference, especially if you have felt like no one's listening. Well, someone is listening. That's why this service was created. So take advantage of the free service. Hope this helps. Thank you so much for listening. Talk to you soon.